My name is Linda Roberts. I am 31 years old. My family blindsided me by claiming my hard-earned home as their own, shattering the trust I'd clung to for years. The betrayal left me hollow, questioning every sacrifice I'd made for them. It happened during our monthly video call, the one I'd set up to stay connected after moving to Baltimore for my job. I'd just shared the news about closing on my cozy row house in Federal Hill, the first place that felt truly mine after years of scraping by as a dental hygienist. My mother leaned into the camera, her eyes sharp as she cut me off mid-sentence. "That's perfect timing, Linda. Your father and I have been talking, and with our apartment lease ending, we're moving in with you next month. Your brother agrees it's the right thing. Family helps family, after all." The words hung there heavy and unyielding, as if my achievement was just a convenient solution to their problems. My father nodded silently beside her, his agreement a quiet knife twist, while my brother chimed in from his split screen, "Yeah, sis, it's not like you need all that space alone." The pain hit like a wave, my chest tightening as I realized they saw my success not as mine, but as theirs to claim. I sat frozen, staring at their expectant faces, my dream home suddenly feeling like a trap. But in that silence, I gripped the edge of my desk, deciding I couldn't let them erase what I'd built, yet wondering if standing firm would cost me everything I'd ever known. Have you ever had your family treat your accomplishments like they're owed a piece? What would you do if saying no meant risking it all? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The call ended abruptly after that, with my mother waving it off like it was settled, saying we'd discuss details later. I remember staring at the blank screen, my hands still shaking a little as I set down my phone. At 31, I'd finally thought I was carving out something stable, away from the constant pull of their needs. But there it was again, that familiar guilt wrapping around me like an old chain. I'd worked for this house. For 7 years, I'd put in extra shifts at the clinic cleaning teeth and listening to patient stories while skipping lunches to save every penny. No fancy vacations, no splurges, just brown bag meals and secondhand furniture to build up that down payment. The row house wasn't huge, just 2 bedrooms with a small backyard, but it had charm, exposed brick walls, a little kitchen where I could finally cook without sharing space, and a view of the harbor from the upstairs window. Closing day had felt like a victory with Grace Brooks, my real estate attorney, handing over the keys and saying, "You've earned this, Linda. Enjoy your new chapter." But now my family's words echoed, turning that joy sour. I paced the empty living room. That night, boxes still unpacked around me, trying to process how they'd just assumed. My parents, George and Helen Cole, they're the ones who'd raised me in a cramped apartment back in Ohio, always reminding me how much they'd sacrificed. My brother James Roberts, older by 4 years, had always been the one they doted on, the one who got away with half efforts while I picked up the slack. And now they were all in on this like my home was the family safety net. The next morning, I called my best friend Sarah Klein, someone I'd met at the clinic where she worked as a receptionist. She'd been my sounding board through the house hunt, celebrating with takeout when I got approved for the mortgage. "They can't just decide that," she said over coffee at a local spot near Patterson Park. "You need to set boundaries. Linda, this is your place." Her words helped a bit, steadying me as I nodded, but inside the doubt crept in. What if pushing back meant losing them for good? By afternoon, the text started rolling in. My mother sent the first. We're excited about Baltimore. Send pics of the guest room so we can plan. Then my father followed. Don't overthink it, kiddo. It's temporary until we get back on our feet. Temporary. That's how they always framed it, but I knew better. Their lease wasn't just ending. I'd overheard hints during past calls about money troubles, bills piling up from my father's failed side business in auto repairs, and my brother chiming in with a group message, Mom and Dad need this, sis. You've got the space, be a team player. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I drove to the hardware store, picking up basic supplies to make the house feel more secure, like deadbolts for the doors. The owner, Kevin Vaughn, chatted casually as he rang me up. New homeowner smart to lock things down early. His easy manner calmed me, but as I installed the locks that evening, each turn of the screwdriver felt like a small act of defiance. What was I doing, preparing for a siege from my own blood? A week later, the pressure ramped up. My brother called while I was at work between patients. Look, Linda Mom's blood pressure is acting up again from the stress. You know how she gets. If you say no, it'll break her. His voice carried that familiar edge, the one he'd used since we were kids to guilt me into covering for him. I leaned against the supply cabinet, whispering back, "This is my home. I can't just hand it over." He sighed like I was the unreasonable one. Family first, remember. Or are you too good for us now that you've got your fancy job and house? That jab stung, twisting the knife of old resentments. Growing up, I'd been the reliable one, the daughter who helped with chores, while my brother partied through high school. My parents praised his free spirit, but expected me to be the anchor. Now, with a steady career, they still saw me that way, a resource, not a person with her own life. I confided in my colleague, Dr. Elena Vasquez, a new dentist at the clinic who'd become a quick ally. She was in her 40s, sharp and no nonsense, with stories of her own family drama. Over lunch in the break room, she listened as I spilled it all. Sounds like classic coercion, she said, stirring her soup. They push because they know you'll bend, but if you don't draw the line now, it'll never stop. Her advice lingered a mini cliffhanger in my mind. What if bending meant breaking myself? By evening, I mustered the courage for a direct call to my parents. I can't do this. I told them, my voice steadier than I felt. The house is small and I'm just settling in. My mother paused, then her tone sharpened. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, paid for your dental school loans when you couldn't. This is how you repay us. My father added softly, "Think about it, Linda. We don't ask for much." The call ended with them hanging up, leaving me in silence, the weight of their words pressing down. Days blurred into a tense waiting game. I threw myself into work, but the anxiety followed, making my hands unsteady during procedures. One patient even noticed, asking if I was okay. At home, I researched my options, calling Brian Lawson, my insurance agent, to confirm if adding occupants would affect my policy. "You'd need to notify us," he explained patiently. "Unauthorized long-term guests could complicate things." His words were a quiet warning. What if they showed up anyway? Then came the email from my brother forwarding flight itineraries. "Mom and Dad arrive in 2 weeks. pick them up at BWI. No question, just assumption. My heart raced as I read it twice, the reality sinking in. They weren't backing down. I replied simply, no, find other arrangements. But even as I hit send, I wondered if this was the start of something irreversible, a fracture that might never heal. Sarah stopped by that night with wine sensing my spiral. You're doing the right thing, she assured me, but her eyes held worry. We sat on my unpacked couch, talking late, and she shared how she'd cut ties with her own toxic relatives years ago. It hurts, but freedom's worth it. Her story built a slow dread in me. What price would I pay? The following weekend, I hired Ava Pierce, a local attorney recommended by Grace Brooks. In her small office downtown, I laid out the situation. They can't force their way in, she said, firmly jotting notes. This is your property. If they arrive uninvited, it's trespassing. We drafted a formal letter, polite but clear, stating they weren't welcome to stay. Sending it felt like crossing a line, a build-up to confrontation. I dreaded. But before the letter arrived, my mother called again, her voice laced with tears. How could you do this to us? We're your family. The guilt hit hard memories, flashing of childhood holidays, her cooking my favorite meals, despite tight budgets. Please, Linda, reconsider. I held firm, but my resolve wavered, the emotional pull like a tide dragging me under. My brother escalated next, posting subtly on social media a family photo from last Christmas with a caption about priorities shifting. Friends messaged me confused, and I realized he was turning the narrative, painting me as the selfish one. The isolation crept in a high-stakes shift that made me question everything. Then the unexpected twist, my father texted, alone something he rarely did. Talk to your brother. There's more to this. It hinted at secrets, withheld information that gnawed at me. What weren't they saying? The suspense built as I debated calling, knowing it could unravel more than I was ready for. That cryptic text from my father lingered like a shadow, pulling me into a late-night debate with myself. I finally caved and called my brother the next day, hoping for clarity, but his evasive answers only deepened the mystery. What more could there possibly be? My brother picked up on the second ring, sounding rushed as always. What do you want, Linda? I'm in the middle of something. I took a breath, keeping my tone even. Dad said there's more to this move. What's going on? He hesitated, then laughed it off sharply. Oh, that just the usual bills stacking up, you know how it is. But seriously, with your new place, it's the perfect fix. Don't make it a big deal. His dismissal felt like a slap, but I pressed. It's my home. I can't just hand it over. He sighed dramatically. Always about you, huh? Mom's health is on the line here, and you're playing house like some independent queen. Grow up, we're family. The call left me reeling, his words echoing old patterns where he'd twist things to make me the villain. I vented to Elena at work the next shift as we prepped for patients in the quiet morning. He's gaslighting you, she said, handing me a stack of charts. Classic move to shift blame. Document everything, texts, calls. It might come in handy. Her straightforward advice cut through the fog, but it also planted a seed of paranoia. What if they were planning something bigger? The psychological grind continued over the next few days. My mother sent daily messages, alternating between pleas and jabs. Thinking of you and that empty guest room. One read followed by, your father says you're being selfish After all, we've given up. Given up, I'd been the one sending money home during college, covering their shortfalls while juggling part-time jobs. Now, with my own bills and a mortgage, they acted like I owed them my future. I threw myself into settling the house hanging curtains and stocking the kitchen, but the unease followed. Sarah noticed during our weekly run in the park. "You look exhausted," she said, slowing her pace. "This is eating at you." I nodded, confessing the latest texts. "They're wearing me down." She stopped turning to face me with that fierce protectiveness. "Then fight back smarter. Maybe talk to a therapist or join a support group I've heard of ones for family boundary issues." Her suggestion hung there, a potential lifeline, but also a reminder of how deep this ran. By midweek, the escalation hit a new level. My father called during my lunch break, his voice uncharacteristically firm. "Linda, we've booked the flights. We'll be there in 10 days. Your brother is helping with the packing." No room for discussion, just declaration. I gripped my phone tighter. "I sent the letter. You can't just show up." He paused, then dropped the bomb. "We need this more than you know. Your mother's tests came back not good. Stress is making it worse." The revelation punched the air from my lungs. Was this real or another layer of manipulation? I hung up and immediately texted Elena for advice. My hands shaky, she replied quickly, "Verify it. Ask for details or offer alternatives, like helping with a hotel." But doubt gnawed at me. What if it was true? The guilt surged memories of my mother's past health scares flashing back times I'd dropped everything to help. Yet something felt off, the timing too convenient. That evening, I dove deeper, calling Ava Pierce again to update her. "This changes things," she said calmly from her office, "but it doesn't give them rights to your property. We can add a clause in another letter offering financial help, instead shows good faith without caving." We crafted it together, over the phone, me pacing my living room as she dictated. Sending it felt like arming myself, but the waiting afterward was torture, a slow build of what-ifs. My brother ramped up the pressure next, forwarding medical snippets, blurry photos of doctor's notes that mentioned my mother's hypertension, but nothing dire. "See, this is on you if it worsens," his message read. The accusation burned, twisting my worry into anger. I showed Sarah over coffee the next morning. "They're using her health as leverage," she said, eyes widening. "That's low. You need backup, maybe loop in a relative who'll be neutral." Her idea sparked something. I had an aunt on my father's side, but we'd drifted. Was it worth reaching out? The days ticked down, each one heavier. Work suffered. I mixed up patient files, once earning a gentle warning from the clinic manager. Elena pulled me aside after. "You're carrying too much. Take a personal day if needed." But I pushed through, using the routine to ground me. At home, I installed more security, a camera at the door from Kevin's store, testing it obsessively. Peace of mind, he'd called it, but it felt like preparing for war. Then came the group call. They ambushed me with all three on screen like a tribunal. My mother started, voice trembling. "We're comin', Linda." End of discussion. My father nodded. "It's temporary, 6 months tops." My brother smirked. "Yeah, don't be dramatic. You've got room and we're blood." The united front cracked something in me. "No," I said firmly. "Find another way. I'll help with money, but not this." Silence stretched, then my mother snapped. "Ungrateful after we sacrificed for you. Fine, see how far that gets you alone." The call ended in chaos, their voices overlapping with accusations. I sat there, heart pounding, the isolation hitting full force. Had I just severed ties forever? The question loomed a cliffhanger in the quiet house. But the real twist came 2 days later, an anonymous report to Adult Protective Services claiming I was unstable and hoarding family resources. The letter arrived certified, demanding a home visit. Panic surged. Who else but them called Ava, immediately, her voice a steady anchor. "This is retaliation. We'll handle it." As we planned, the stakes skyrocketed. What lengths would they go to next? Elena connected me with a support group that week, virtual meetings for adult children of demanding parents. In my first session, I listened to stories mirroring mine, the shared pain, a strange comfort. One member, a woman named Tara Jenkins, shared privately afterward. "I went through it, cut contact eventually. It hurts, but you survive." Her words built suspense in my mind. Was that my path? The social worker, Mia Klein, showed up unannounced, polite but thorough. I gave her the tour, explaining the family drama without emotion. "This seems unfounded," she said, noting details. "I'll report back." Relief mixed with wariness. What if they escalated further? My brother's next move was a social media blast, a vague post about family betrayals that drew sympathetic comments from mutual friends. Messages flooded in. What's going on? The public shaming stung, eroding my support network. Sarah rallied, posting counters subtly, but the damage lingered. I hired Anna Lloyd, a private investigator. Ava recommended to dig into their finances. Discreet and thorough, Ava promised. Anna's initial call was eye-opening. Bankruptcy filings from 2 years back, hidden debts. Your brother's involved due transfers from joint accounts. The revelations piled up, a gradual unveiling of lies that made my blood boil. They'd been siphoning for months, using guilt as cover. Confronting my brother felt inevitable. I drove to a neutral spot, a cafe, midway, but he arrived defensive. "What now? You're spying," he spat when I laid out the facts. "It's family money. Mom needed it." The admission flipped the power, but his denial twisted it back. "You're overreacting. Drop this or you'll regret it." The threat hung as I left, a turning point that solidified my resolve. But back home, a voicemail from my mother waited. "We're on our way. See you soon." The clock was ticking. Would I hold the line or crumble under the weight? The voicemail replayed in my head as I stared at the phone, the casual "see you soon" masking the storm heading my way. 10 days, that's all I had before my family descended, turning my sanctuary into a battleground I never wanted. I didn't sleep much that night, the house feeling smaller, more vulnerable. The next morning, I called Anna Lloyd back, pushing for faster results on the financial dig. "Give me a day," she said, her voice professional but empathetic. "I'll email what I find." Work was a blur, my mind elsewhere, as I cleaned instruments and chatted with patients. Elena noticed again, pulling me into her office after closing. "You need a plan B," she urged, handing me a card for a crisis counselor. "If they show up, don't engage alone. Call the police if needed." Her concern was a lifeline, but it also amplified the dread. What if it came to that? The report from Anna arrived that evening, a PDF attachment that I opened with trembling fingers. It detailed my parents' mounting debts, credit cards maxed, a failed loan for my father's business attempt, and worse, withdrawals from an old joint account I'd forgotten about one they'd kept active in my name. Over $15,000 siphoned in the last year funneled to my brother for emergencies. The evidence stared back cold and undeniable. This could be fraud, Anna noted in her cover email. Recommend consulting authorities. I confronted my father, first emailing the highlights with a simple subject, "Explain this." His response came hours later, a defensive wall of text. It was temporary help we planned to pay back. Don't blow this up. No apology, just deflection. My mother followed with a call, her voice breaking. How dare you accuse us after we supported you? The gaslighting twisted deeper, making me question my own eyes. My brother piled on, showing up in my inbox with threats veiled as concern. Drop the detective crap or Mom's stress will land her in the hospital for real. The words cut preying on my fear for her health. I shared it all with Sarah over a tense dinner at my place Chinese takeout, growing cold as we dissected. "They're cornering you," she said, scrolling through the emails. "But you have proof, now use it." Tara from the support group messaged too after I updated the chat. "Been there. Stand firm but protect your mental health." Their support built a fragile armor, but the isolation gnawed what if fighting meant destroying what little family I had left. The days raced by, each one a countdown. I met with Ava again, strengthening my legal stance. "We'll file for a restraining order if they force entry," she explained, drafting papers. The cost stung $2,000 a retainer, but it felt necessary. At home, I packed an emergency bag just in case, the act itself a painful admission of how far this had gone. Then the health card played out in full. My mother sent hospital records, real ones, from a recent checkup showing elevated risks. "See what your stubbornness is doing," her message read. Guilt crashed over me, memories of her bedside during my childhood illnesses flipping the script. Was I the monster here? I offered alternatives, helping with rent for a nearby apartment, even wiring money for medical bills. But they rejected it all. "We need stability, not handouts," my father replied. Stability, my stability, apparently. The arrival day dawned gray and rainy, matching my mood. I worked a half shift, then headed home heart-pounding. Sarah offered to stay over, but I declined, needing to face this alone. The airport texts started, landed, on our way. I paced the camera feed on my phone, showing the empty street. When the cab pulled up, my parents emerged with suitcases. My brother trailing behind, he'd flown with them for support. They knocked, then pounded. "Open up, Linda." My mother called, her voice muffled through the door. I cracked it, chain lock in place. "You can't stay here. Please leave." My father stepped forward, eyes pleading yet firm. "Don't do this. We're family." My brother sneered. "Yeah, let us in before the neighbors talk." The standoff stretched, rain soaking them, my resolve cracking under their stares. In the end, I faltered. The sight of my mother shivering, her face pale, undid me. I unlatched the door, murmuring, "Just for tonight. We'll figure out tomorrow." They bustled in, claiming the guest room like it was theirs, my brother crashing on the couch. "Knew you'd come around," he said with a wink that felt like a jab. The next weeks blurred into a nightmare. They overstayed, turning my routines upside down. Loud TV, constant demands, bills I ended up covering. My work suffered. A patient complaint led to a warning from the clinic manager. Elena checked in disappointed. "You gave in." Sarah distanced herself, hurt by my choice. The financial drains continued subtle at first, then bold: my mother borrowing from my wallet, my brother using my card for essentials. I tried boundaries, but each confrontation ended in tears or threats. "If you kick us out her health," my father would say, wielding guilt like a weapon. Anna's fraud evidence sat unused. Pursuing it felt like betraying blood. The support group faded as shame kept me silent. Months later, the house no longer felt mine. I'd sacrificed peace for a fragile truce, losing myself in the process. My family remained stronger in their hold, while I faded into the role they'd always assigned: the giver, the fixer. The painful choice to let them in saved nothing, only deepened the void. Regret lingers now, a heavy shadow. What if I'd chosen myself instead? Thank you for listening to my story. It's still raw to share. Have you ever faced a family demand that forced an impossible choice, knowing either way you'd lose? What emotional toll did it take? Let me know in the comments.